Hi guys and welcome back. So today we're going through chapter 10 in the Royal Card Magic regarding false shuffles and cuts, and this has some really cool techniques, so I hope you're going to like it. Now, the first technique is called the Optical Shuffle. And what I did here was I shuffled the cards, but the cards didn't change position at all. So let's get into these false shuffles and cuts. We have a couple of them today, so just follow along the ride, get your cards out, and we'll learn quite a lot today. Let's get into it. So the Optical Shuffle, as I know it, it's a little bit different than the one in the Royal Card Magic. We'll go through that one too. And I did it just before, and it looks something like this. And on camera, when you're having a camera statically like this, it might not look too good, to be honest, but out in the real world this actually works pretty well. So what you're actually doing here is you're just pretending really to shuffle the cards, but you don't take any cards at all. So how do we do this? Well, we undercut and then we do this shuffling movement, and there's a couple of things you need to think about here. First of all, you need to move your thumb as though you were actually shuffling the cards, and the sound, the scraping sound, and that the fact that these cards kind of slide up a little bit also contributes to this optical illusion. So once you've done that a couple of times, what you can do is actually drop all the cards except these in the back, which you in-jog, and then you form a break here, you undercut again, and you do some shuffling movements, and you just throw on top, and no card has changed position. So as I said, this is something you have to do as you're talking to your spectators and obviously not looking at your hands. So just do it very casually as you're talking, as you're introducing an effect or something. It's not the kind of shuffle you do when you say, okay, I'm just gonna shuffle the cards here, because you don't want to draw that kind of attention to yourself. It's just a very casual shuffle. Okay, let's move on to the next shuffle. So this shuffle goes under the name the Optical Shuffle in the Royal Card Magic. I know it more as the Haymow Shuffle, or a version of it. And it looks like this. Something like that. I don't do this shuffle, to be honest, but I'll still teach it so you get the idea. So this is how it's done. You draw off a little chunk like this, and then you do that pretend movement we talked about. You do that once, then you flip these over, and you actually shuffle underneath like this. You do the fake, you actually shuffle, you do the fake, you actually shuffle, you do the fake, and you throw them back here. So again, that didn't move a single card. To be honest, I didn't remember this shuffle, and I haven't come across it elsewhere. But yeah, with some practice, I really think this can be quite deceptive. So try it out, and I hope you like it. Here's another shuffle called the Braué Shuffle. And what's interesting about this one is that it's actually supposed to look super sloppy and pretty, chaotic. And what you've done here is you've actually it looks like you're giving them a good mix, but you actually cut the cards. So you cut the cards once. And that can be very useful in many situations. It appears as though you're actually shuffling them, but you're just cutting them. And I'll also go through a way to make it completely false without altering the position at all. But first, let's go through the basic motion. So you're just gonna push over a couple of cards, a chunk from your left hand to your right hand. And what you're going to do now is you're going to slide out with your left fingers some cards from the bottom, and these will go on top. And then you take some from the top, and those go on the bottom. So you go from the bottom to the top, from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, and just on top like so. And again, as I said, now we've cut the cards once. Okay? So how can we do this without altering the position at all? Well, we could, for example, crimp the bottom cards, the bottom card, and then cut to it once we're done. Another way of doing it is we start the same way, take a chunk from the top, and then we take them from the bottom, but we actually, from the bottom to the top, remember, but we in-jog them a little bit. So I actually have an in-jog here now, which I can control with my pinky finger. And then we go again from the top to the bottom to the top to bottom to top, and so on and so forth. And when we're done, we square up, but we lift at the in-jog and we cut. And now they're in the same position as before. So remember, with this shuffle, it doesn't have to look fancy at all. It's not supposed to look fancy. It's supposed to, you say you're just going to mix the card. Use the word mix, not shuffle. Just seems better in this occasion. If it suits your personality and the way you perform, it's you're a little bit more chaotic, you know, or just a little bit more casual, this is a perfect shuffle. So before starting talking about the cuts, make sure to also watch this video coming up right now, which has a lot of cuts from the hands to the table, and then also make the watch the riffle shuffle video, which will pop up now, which has a lot of false cuts on the table like this. Okay, so make sure to watch those two. Okay, let's go through some false cuts. False cuts are super important in card magic because we should always end our shuffles with the cuts, because that's just what people are used to. So the first cut looks like this, just a straight cut to the table, but nothing has changed. Again, this is a cut you have to do just very casually after you shuffle the cards. As you look at the spectators, you're not looking at your hands as you do it, because what you're actually doing, of course, is you cut from the bottom and then on top, just like that. So it's not a cut, obviously. So what you do is you hold the cards in elevated dealing position. You cut off about half or so from the bottom, and you're just gonna bring that out like this and to the front. And you do this, as I said, without looking at your hands. Now you can actually look at this packet and place that on top and just let this formation sink in for a moment or two and then square up. So what's important here also is that you don't slide that bottom packet off, because that looks very suspicious. It looks like something came from the bottom, and obviously you don't want that. Make sure that the cut is clean, and you can also help this by kind of pressing with your index finger. If you drag some cards, you can actually press with your index finger very quickly, like so, to kind of clean that up. As I said, let this sink in, because this enforces the fact that we supposedly cut the deck, and then we square it up nicely and neatly. This is a very deceptive cut if you do it casually and, you know, without making a move out of it, basically. Here's another interesting cut that will retain the order of the entire deck, which you can do while you're talking very casually. Maybe you're, you know, presenting the trick or something, because it's a weird cut to do once the trick has started. But if you do it before, just very casually, just, you know, really cutting the deck a lot of times, it's very deceptive because the cards are back in order. So how do we do this cut? So we place the cards on the table, and then we simply start to cut off small packets like this. You can do, you know, how many you want, but let's say we do 5 cuts like this. And now we kind of start to just pick them up. So you pick this first, and you place that over here, and that on top, and that on top, and everything on top. And then you square them up, and you kind of, oh right, I have a packet over here as well. And you just take that on the bottom like so. And just like that, all the cards are back as they started. Okay guys, so let's talk about a couple of cuts to retain the top stock and then the bottom stock. So I did talk about kind of these cuts when I did the riffle shuffle video. It looks like this, so go check that out. We retain that on top, but this is another kind of cut you see sometimes. That what I did there was kind of a running cut, This is more like strip cuts, and it looks something like this. Don't do this as often, but you see this done at casinos and stuff, and that too retains the top stock. So how do we do this? Well, we place these on top, and we're gonna cut off with our left hand at least that stock, those 4 cards, and we come around and we pick it up like this with a thumb break, a right thumb break, and we pause for a beat right here, and then we pick everything up and we start stripping the deck by just cutting off small packets like this to the table until we reach that break, and we place that on top. And that's a pretty deceptive cut, if you ask me. Of course, we can do this for the bottom stock as well. It looks something like this. And those aces are still at the bottom. So how do we do this? Well, we have these on the bottom. We cut at least that stock to the top. In that circular motion again, we square up, but we keep a break, pause for a beat, and we strip off that. We cut off that first, everything above the break, thus cutting this right back to the bottom, and then just keep stripping the deck just like this, and those are back on the bottom. Okay guys, so the last cut we're going to talk about is the palm cut, and it looks something like this. We have retained the top stock. Now, I don't necessarily recommend this cut, but we'll talk about that in a moment. So in the book, this is how they recommend you use it. You're gonna palm off those top cards, the aces. So you can learn how to palm from the video popping up. Then you cut off half. You replace these as you come over and place them back. I think there's a lot of better false cuts, to be honest, but I think this can be good as a replacement. So if you already have these palmed and you've had the cards shuffled, for example, now I think it can be good to just give them a cut and replace them just like so. But just as a straight cut, I think it's a lot of work, to be honest, to palm those off and replace them in that kind of cut. That's just my 2 cents, but you do you. Okay guys, so I hope you liked this video. It was a lot of different techniques, I know, so let me know in the comments if you have any questions about them or so. And we have a lot of good tricks coming from this chapter, I feel. So make sure to subscribe and see you next time.